Jesus. And you came on strong, bro.
Man, I'm in the zone right now.
You're in a zone. Well, that's good.
Coming from behind, but yeah, just blazed through 4 consecutive swim analysis.
Oh.
In the last 3 hours. Yep.
Wow. Well, it's a good thing we've got some yin and yang going here then.
Because, you struggling a little bit?
I'm a little flat, but
it's all right.
Day 27
7
of 100 days to Louisville, and you're going to have your ups and downs, right? I mean,
that's for sure.
It just happens, and you try to keep those highs not too high and those lows not too low, and so I'm fine. I'm just kind of kicking it back. I realize that
kicking it old school.
I'm actually what I'm doing is preparing for my Facebook Live debut.
Oof. Make sure you let me know. I'm putting in my calendar. I'm clearing my schedule.
I'm going to put you on mute during that time.
I don't think that's possible.
No, we'll just do it next week. I figure we'll just what was it? Tuesday? Every Tuesday, maybe. If you want to do an alternating.
It's your world, man.
It's not my world, but
I mean,
it's everyone's world.
That's true. And the world says they want Mike Torelli on a Facebook Live Q&A.
Yeah, they are going to get it. So, we'll plan on doing that next Tuesday. I'll give a little more heads up on that. Can I just, this morning I've been dealing with, one of those times when I said I got to keep recharging my mouse, and that sort of thing. But can I ask you a question about this? What is up with updates in the world? The phone updates and the computer updates and
updates?
Yeah, I mean, what are they doing to me? It's like every day something needs to be updated. I was like, "Why? Give me something like when something good happens, like it's going to be a real update. Give it to me." But every single day.
You mean like what do you? I don't like. You need like an iPhone update or like world update?
No, it's an iPhone, like computer. Like I have my video softwares and things like that, and they're just updating me every single day.
Oh yeah, I had that issue this morning. I was actually like, because I really do. I mean, I don't think people don't really expect it, but I really, really try to get people's coaches' live swim analysis literally back within 24 hours, and I tell them 1 to 3 business days, and just to in case I get behind or something goes wrong. And this morning, I had to update my coach's eye program because and my Dropbox, because I've had so many swim analysis. It was time for me to upgrade to a bigger storage, and so I had to upgrade to a bigger storage, and that took time. And then so there was literally from like probably 8:30 to 9:30. I was literally just waiting for it to update so I could do the swim analysis.
Yeah.
And I was I was like, come on, I'm ready to roll. When I'm ready to roll, I'm ready to roll. I don't want to have to wait for, no offense, but if we can land on the moon, we can take care of things a little bit quicker than taking this long for me to update and get my athletes back some videos so they can swim faster tomorrow in the pool.
I know. I mean, and we can set it up for auto updates. I get that, but I just don't know. I mean, it's like if it's going to be a real update that makes things faster and better and smoother, that's cool. But if it's just going to like give me different cool emojis to work with or something, it's like, what? Come on.
Yeah, seriously.
All right, so this is episode number 81, I believe, of the Crushing Iron podcast.
Is it?
I think so. There's it 82.
You know me and numbers, man.
Yeah. Brutal. You had it right the one day, and the next day you went backwards.
Hey, man, when you're in the moment, you're in the moment. Days don't even matter. Hours don't even matter. I'm just here.
Yeah. So it's I'm Mike, and I'm the age grouper, grooming myself into coaching, and Robbie is the coach, and we just kind of talk about all things triathlon and life and growth and spirit and soul and it goes on, and it's just it's a cool mix. So two guys talking about nothing, but a lot of people seem to get a lot out of it. And yesterday, you had a really good, and you also do Facebook Live Q&As, and you had a good one yesterday. And it was basically about your training, correct?
It was yeah, I asked, some people, I opened it up basically to questions about my training, because it's definitely a different animal when it comes to, not because it's me, but because we're looking at such a short time period. And if you haven't tuned in to any of if you're on our closed Facebook group, which is just Crushing Iron group, or if you haven't really followed our 100 Days to Louisville, I literally hadn't swam as of 27 days ago. I hadn't even swam since Ironman Wisconsin last year, and I'd only ridden my bike like 3 or 4 times, with the most recent one being in December. And so you take that into account, and then you add in, now I'm training for an Ironman in 100 days. Things can get interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the challenge, because, there are no, I'm not a huge fan of, I'm not even a fan. I'm not a fan of hacks and that kind of phrase and taking shortcuts, but I do think that there are ways that you can appropriately maximize your time and see really, really great improvements, and maybe you just might surprise yourself. And so I've been kind of going on that journey, and I've been working really closely on your training plan and mine, and we've talked about a few things and principles and training philosophies, and you've got a great grasp on it. And so yeah, it was about my training, but it was also fielded questions about how I construct training plans in general. And general is the operative word, because no one gets general, because everybody's different. Everybody has, different life circumstances, where you got married or not married, dating or not dating, kids or no kids, young kids or old kids, demanding job, not demanding job, retired, working 50 hours a week, first time Ironman, no Ironman. There's so many, injury history, no injury history, strong cyclist, strong swimmer, weak runner. There's a million of all the athletes I coach. Every single person is different, and they all have different demands. They all have different expectations. They all adapt differently. It's like not everybody needs 16, 18 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they have it doesn't mean it's better for you. And so a lot of questions went around, about my training and how that's scheduled, and then how I schedule other athletes' training, and then there's other couple of random thoughts in there. But yeah, it was a great Q&A session. I love having them and engaging with all the people in the closed group. I hate not being able to spend a ton of time on each question, but blaze through it and go from there.
Yeah, you can't. It is kind of a complicated mix, because even you've been training me for 5 years or so, and that I'm probably one of the, I don't know, maybe not most abnormal types of trainers, but I don't want to say I buy into hacks or anything either. But what I do is, as an older triathlete, I started, my first race was as a 50-year-old, first Ironman, and so my thing is always about being fresh, or trying to be, fresh enough to get to the next workout, to build a little bit and recover well. And because if I get into a funk where I'm not doing anything for a week or something like that, or just half-assing workouts, that's a bad plan for me. And like I said, always, I just want to get to, compared to how I feel right now, I want to get to Ironman Louisville on that morning and be feeling the best at that moment I've felt for the whole training plan, and maybe forever.
Yeah.
That's my goal. And how I get there can vary sometimes. And as you're saying, at this point, I feel like we're, I'm going to dial us in a little tighter as far as what I want to be doing. But I'm still in a phase of, I just got off a 70.3 in May. So I was trained up a little bit, and right now I'm just still trying to. I'm actually, even though I'm a little bit tired today and yesterday, I'm loving training. So I'm going about this in the way of all right, let's just get it going again and build up some distance, some routines, get it going, feel good, and then just start dialing it in a little bit tighter and specifically, right? Mm-hmm. So as you think about One of the questions is, when you're coaching your athletes and training yourself, do you focus on specific disciplines per week, or like a heavy swim week or run week, and why? And then, so like that one is really kind of a key question for me, because I sort of do that right now. And I didn't, honestly, in full disclosure, I didn't even watch what you said. So, and I will, because I'm big on research. Mm-hmm. And sorry, dude, I was just doing something. But is that bumming you out a little bit?
Yeah, No, I'm just kidding. I know
you got a huge audience, man. You know what I mean?
I know.
I was just with you in the morning.
I know we had just spent the last 2 hours together. So,
focused.
So, yeah, right. Focus. So, no, I mean, it's again, everybody is different, and so here's the deal. When you ask about, like, I get questions all the time from prospective athletes, current athletes about their training, when, why, what, here's my training philosophy about this. And like, listen, like, your training needs change every day. Like, they literally change every day. And that is why it takes me a whole lot more time. But that's why I only do a plan a week at a time, because what I want is, I want real time. I want real time coaching, and I want you to get real time feedback. The only way I can do that is if I write out a week based on the previous weeks, and I write it in pencil. So let's say this. Let's say Bobby Joe Sued Bob gets a training plan online or downloads it from Ironman.com or another worthless website that Ponzi's off and expects people to get better. And you have to move a workout, or you miss a workout, or you don't complete a workout. Well, there's literally nothing that shows you how to change, how to adapt, how to not. Let's say you go on vacation and you only have access to running a treadmill. Well, then what do you do? Well, for me, I always plug in swim, bike, heavy leading up, swim, bike, heavy on the back end. So let's give you an example. We'll take 3 weeks. And in the middle week is a travel week where you have a ton, where you have, could you take your bike? Sure. Would it be more stress than anything? Absolutely. And you don't have a pool. What you can do is you can run, and you can run a lot, and you can run safely. So you take these 3 weeks and you put the middle week in where you're traveling, and it's only going to be running, or run heavy focus week. Well, that's week number 2. Week number 1, week number 3 are going to be really, really bike swim heavy with still a little bit of running. And if you took those 3 weeks and you took each individual workout and you put it in a basket, you would still probably get close to the same amount of swim, bike, run workouts as if I had basket number 2, which just had 3 standard weeks of no traveling. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's always an ebb and flow, or it's an athlete who I see is struggling finishing off running and riding or swimming. You always have to adapt, and literally, and my athletes will tell you this, like, everything is written in pencil. Like, if it needs to be changed, it can be changed, and it will change. Someday, a lot of my changes are, you're taking a day off tomorrow. Or I'm changing up the weekend and making it shorter because of this, and so it's always changing, but different athletes have different needs. Some people are a lot stronger, in certain areas they need more love, but in the end, like, you want to keep a strength to strength, and you want to work on the weaknesses, and you don't want to neglect a strength either, just to work on a weakness, but you can work on them. And that's part of it.
Yeah, and I'm sure I got this from you, but like sometimes I will, because if my weakness is probably swimming, my strength is probably cycling, but not long cycling. So my weakness in cycling is the long distance stuff, and it doesn't mean that I can't go that way, but it's just not my. I'm not a Cadillac, you know what I mean? I'm sort of a faster car that can kind of get there, but he's sort of like overheated when he gets done. But if I'm swimming well, I'll just start up in my swim because I'm loving it, and I take advantage. And that's the part where I know you've talked to me about this before, but like if I'm building up my weakness, which is swimming, I all of a sudden start to love it. Now's the time to get in the pool and really build that. And same with cycling. If I'm like getting, if I'm feeling good and I love sitting on the saddle for a long time, I just start riding longer and build that stuff up, or riding more frequently. And then it's like that everybody's afraid to, because the run is so important. But I learned the other day, like for example, I'm on that sort of trajectory right now where I'm loving swimming, feeling good about the bike, and that's my goal, is to build those two up really stronger than they've ever been because of those two weaknesses. And I went out after a pretty hard ride on Saturday, at least for this part of the training, and I went out and did a run, and that run has kind of got me off kilter all week, man. I'm just holding on. And I went too far, I stayed out too long, and it was not necessary. And it's got me off this week, so that's why I've been trying to make these little adjustments as we go too. But talk about that a little bit, about that, like if you're in a groove, and especially with your weaknesses, go with the groove.
Always, no matter what, go with the groove.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're using your strength and lack of wanting to address your weakness as a fake groove, always go with the groove. Always. I mean, and that's one of my favorite parts of coaching is, and it's especially, you see it all the time in swimming, is, most athletes hate swimming because they never see results. They never get any faster. They hate not knowing what they're doing. Then they get faster. They're doing the good workouts. They may or may not get a swim analysis. And all of a sudden there's this like eye-opening, like, now I actually know how to get better. Now I'm actually getting better. Let's go swim. and so you just keep pounding it, keep pounding the swim. You don't neglect the other areas, but and that's why coaching triathlon is such an interesting sport to coach, because you're not only coaching the person and training the athlete, which are two different entities in my opinion. You're also having to blend swim, bike, and run training all at the same time in order to produce one product. It's not run training to produce one marathon, and so it's a give and take, and it's puzzle pieces. And, and sometimes you nail it, sometimes you don't, sometimes you get close, sometimes you need to start over. But, when somebody's in a groove, you go with it. I mean, like last week I was in a huge cycling groove. I could have ridden every single day if I'd had the time. And I got a huge benefit from it. Do I neglect the other ones? I don't think neglecting is the right term. It's you don't want to lose focus on the other ones either. And I'll give a little bit of leeway, like, because you don't want your athletes to ever feel restricted. You want them to feel empowered. You want them to feel like, do you want them to totally buy in? Absolutely. Buy into the process, buy into the majority of the philosophy. It's okay to ask why. It's okay to question things. I encourage that. It's about learning, and it's about adapting, and those conversations are healthy. But you don't want them to feel restricted, because once an athlete starts to feel restricted, like, oh well, I want to run more, but I can't do this. Because and that's where fear comes in with with coaches I've talked to in the past, or athletes I've talked to that I have now that I've had other coaches, that is, you have coaches that are unwilling to deviate from a plan or a training method or a philosophy, and a lot of times it's because they just know that works for them, or they've seen it work with another athlete. So it's like, oh well, shit, like if you deviate, then I don't know what the product's going to be, so you may not like it, so I'm going to tell you not to deviate, so when you do, it's your fault and not mine. And that's a lot of pressure for a lot of athletes and a lot of coaches. And I've talked to some before, and I've even talked to coaches that when we discuss training philosophies and giving feedback and changing and adapting, it's like, I get why they do it, because a lot of athletes join up with the coach because of their training plan for them, or their personal results. Like a lot of coaches get a lot of love and a lot of accolades because they are super, super fast. And while I think that's, it doesn't hurt to have on the resume, I'll take someone whose strength is their ability to explain and transfer knowledge much more than I will over a person whose ability is their strength. And you just see that a lot of times in coaching is this fear to adapt because you know what works for you. It's that Michael Jordan, analogy. It's like he's a terrible owner. He can't identify talent for the life of him, and he would be a terrible coach because he just doesn't get why you don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
And he may be able to train 18 hours, 20 hours a week. And it's another reason why I think you have some professional triathletes that make decent coaches. The other ones, they just don't, because they what do you mean you don't have 25 hours a week to train to get the results that I do? The greatest triathlon coaches that are out there right now don't do triathlon. They've barely done it in the past, or they've dabbled in it, or they did it a long time ago. But so you have to be flexible, and that's why. Like, I had a text conversation with an athlete of mine in Columbia, Missouri, and she sent me a message about her post, and I said, all right, well, we are going to take a day off tomorrow. And she was like, I like how you say we, like we're in it together. I was like, that's because we are. Like, it's not like my results are tied to your results or your results are tied to my coaching. It's we're in this together. And I have confidence that if I need to change things on a dime, we can change it on a dime. And it's just, you have to have that willingness, even if you're a self-coached athlete, to at the same time, you need to be able to look at the tree and the forest in a different field, in a split screen the entire time. Here's the tree, here's the forest. What do I need to do to make sure both are thriving? And a lot of times, athletes who are self-coached have a really, really hard time seeing the forest through the tree. And then you have a lot of coaches who really, really struggle with, I know this tree works. Here's my plan. I know it works. More than likely, I dish it out all the time to everybody else. And you either you grind it out and nose to the stone, because I'm not going to adapt. And if you can't adapt to it, then basically it just falls on the athlete. And that sucks. I've talked to plenty of athletes before. I even talked to one last week who literally has a phobia and a hesitation about getting another coach because of how terrible her experience was the last time. And it happens. There's no one's perfect, and you're always going to have some breakups. But I think if you have like a really open and honest communication, and it's a we thing, it's a journey thing, and you just have to be able to adapt and know that you are, as self-coach, you're doing the best you can for you, and then if you're a coach, you're always doing what's best for the athlete that day and to set them up for the future based on what the current circumstance is today and what they've been able to produce in the past weeks and months. And it's difficult, and is it ideal? No. Like, I had another athlete, today that texted me, and said, I need your honest opinion. Have I put in, I'm going to read it verbatim. I can say who it was, but it said, good morning. I need an honest answer on my training. Do you feel like I've put in enough time and worked hard? And, it's like, and my response was, I think you've done the very best you can. Like, I don't think that any athlete I have goes into a workout thinking, I'm just going to half-ass it. It's like, and that's where I think these expectations come when you have these, I can sign up for an Ironman because I think and I hope and I'm pretty sure I can handle 14 hours a week in training. And then 8 weeks go by and you haven't even gotten into double digits. And You're like, all right, well, so it all varies. And again, it's about communication and confidence, and it's about going together.
Yeah. There's so much about what you're just saying that it just basically comes back to the definition of quote unquote teacher and student, and they always talk about the way to learn is to teach. And, education is learning from what you're teaching. But basically for me, that just comes back to, that question kind of made me, just reflect a little bit, because ultimately the athlete knows, they know the answer. And that's why I'm such a big fan of and that's, in a weird way, that's one of the practices I have to get back into from my training here, is meditation, because I have to go inside and really reflect on what I'm doing and understand what because the more you kind of just sit still and listen to yourself, you know what's going on in your body. And with all the stuff out there, all the training plans, all the articles that are written, all this stuff. Last night I watched that, I didn't get through it, but I started watching that What the Health documentary that people have been talking about a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then, I don't know if you've seen it or know what it's about, but basically it's about, the dietary plan or processes of Americans, and basically it's really kind of a vegan driven thing. I was just curious to see, but all this stuff about how these like now sugar has nothing to do with diabetes, and it's all about eating too much meat and all this stuff, and processed meats and cheeses and dairy stuff, and cancer is all about that and everything. It's like, I don't even know, like half the time I'm like, wow, man, there's just so much information out there, and you just start getting all this stuff in your head, and it starts leading you away from what you already know, in your core. And that's why I think sitting down and listening to yourself is so important. And it's nice to have somebody that is a two-way street, that's listening to you like you as a coach, and is not trying to change. You're trying to help the athlete understand how to do it themselves. You know what I mean? It's like they have to find their own way ultimately. And I think that's what you do a good job of, is you kind of put it out there, and then you let, it's sort of like you encourage reflection and encourage questions like that. And then ultimately, it's sort of like, you go into therapy, people, they help you find your answer. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's such a big part of it, because there's so many different methods and so many different thoughts out there. And ultimately the person has to find out who they are and what they want to do. And that comes down to training too. It's like, what's making you feel good?
There's a certain type of and I've just been going through a million conversations with all different kinds of people this morning, but I had a comment earlier to a certain individual, and I said, just remember that fulfilling your ultimate potential comes with ultimate surrender and patience.
Yes, surrender is the exact word I was looking for.
And that is something that, surrendering something that I had to learn a long time ago in order to get to where I am today. But it is that, and like you said, there is so much noise all the time, everywhere. And I think it's like we go on these endless pursuits of figuring out what all these, how everybody else does it. We want to find another person to fit our mold exactly, and then just mirror it. When the greatest pursuit and the most fulfilling pursuit is doing it in a way that figures out what's best for you. And that's why it's like there, training plans and doing things it's like you have no idea, because you're stuck. You're married to it, and you should never have to. It should be, you should, it just takes patience, and it takes surrender, and you have to believe that you're doing what's best for yourself. Or if you're self-coach, you have to believe that, or you have to totally surrender and be patient with, and just trust that your coach, no matter what, has your best interest in heart. And if you don't think that, then you need to talk to them about that. But, it's just about buy-in and personalities. And, a lot of times, and I'll be honest, because I've had triathlon coaches a few years back, and some of their personalities just blow. And, and because there's certain types of, everybody's, you click, you're like, I like this person, but I wouldn't hang out with this person. I wouldn't give them a call. Your coach needs to be somebody that you can give a call. You can text, you could FaceTime, you could email. You to not be afraid to ask or talk about anything. I'm having a bad day. I'm sick. I'm struggling at home. I might lose my job. I don't feel good about myself. I'm just, those are, if you can't talk to your coach or a training partner or have the conversation with yourself, then I find it really, really hard to believe you're going to fulfill your dreams. And really reach your potential and do the best that you probably can do, is because if you can't have those conversations with yourself or with somebody else, it's like you are always going to feel restricted. You're always going to feel boxed in. And in order to truly, like surrendering is not about giving up. Surrendering is about becoming free. It's not like you think of surrender like, oh, I'm gonna, two armies, one's gonna surrender. It's not. It's about becoming free. And if you can train free and with total belief and total support, then can you imagine going into that race or going into an event or whatever it is, feeling like, man, I have totally bought in. I'm totally happy with where I am. No matter what happens today, I'm gonna be proud of myself for how I've gone about it and how I've trained. And I don't feel like I'm gonna let anybody down, much less a coach or a training partner down. And I'm sure as heck not gonna let myself down. Because we put enough pressure on ourselves already to achieve these things, and we tell everybody a week, a year ahead that we're doing an Ironman. The best day, the easiest day of the entire year is that day you sign up, unless you do it like us and do 100 days before. But if you do it you have the whole year, and like, I'm going to be an Ironman, and I'm going to be an Ironman, and I signed up for an Ironman, that's the easiest day. Every other day gets infinitely harder because you have expectations to fill. You put them on yourself. You have people that are looking to you for do this, like, oh, you're going to do this. You are going to do this. And then you hear of like instances where people don't make cutoffs, or that, and they're like, and it's devastating.
Oh man, I can't imagine.
It's totally devastating. And it's like what that does to people when it like puts them back on the shelf, and sometimes they don't come back for months, or sometimes years, or sometimes ever.
Yeah. Well,
they just give up, and that's directly linked to how they went into it and their support or lack thereof, and their reasonable expectations that they were placed on themselves or that others placed on them.
Yeah, and let's talk about cutoffs just for a second, because it's been a big. No, I want to talk about it from a like, how can we maybe figure out or help somebody that like goes into any kind of race like that with the cutoff is their goal, right? So that, I mean, and ultimately that's no different than me saying I want to go sub 12, and if I don't hit my goal, then am I going to feel similar, right? I didn't make it, was it a bummer, so like going into the cutoff with the cutoff as your goal. All right, so
you're not doing your best.
No, you're training 100 days or probably more, because I would imagine somebody wouldn't do an Ironman with. Well, I shouldn't say that; they probably would. But if you go in there with the cutoff, every day is the goal. I mean, what is that doing to your psyche? You know what I mean? It's like you're going out and you're trying to ride every day. You're like, okay, I just did my bike in 8 hours. That should do this and blah, 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 blah. Is that the goal? I mean, how do you? I don't know. I just feel you're putting a limiter on yourself, and
no, you're not.
You don't think so?
You're not putting a limiter on yourself. You're just okay with being fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so I guess in a way you're putting a limiter on yourself. But like when you say, I'm just going for the cutoff.
Yeah.
Well, what kind of job do you have?
Yeah.
Are you just okay being an average, mediocre husband or wife or spouse or friend? Like, is that the attitude you take to every part of your life? What's the minimum? What can I do to barely get by? And I'm not really interested in finding out how great I can be, or not even great. I'm just not even interested in like putting myself all in, because if I don't care what background you come from, how sedentary or not sedentary you are, if you sign up for an Ironman with no training, and you focus on it, and you do it hard, and you make it your, not your only thing to do in life, because that's just not a way to do it. But if you give it really your best, I don't care what you're doing, you won't even come close to the cutoff. Not even close. If you truly give it your best, and you have good support, and you have good combines, you won't even come close. Sorry.
I don't. We were talking the other day about my first one, and I did do sub 12 at Wisconsin as a 50-year-old, which is awesome. But I confessed to you the other day that I thought I was going to do sub 11 that day, so I trained at something a little higher. I was shooting a little higher, and I really thought I didn't tell anybody, or I was just thinking about it, and So I went in there, and then sub 12 became the reality, I guess. But I don't know. I just think that when you start, and I've done this in the past. I mean, because then it was sort of like, yeah, I want to go sub 12, and then I end up going just sub 12, and I didn't kind of like mentally. I think it's so much mental too, because when you talk about clarity, surrender, and patience, those are mental traits that you develop, and I had gone into these races with this just limited belief system, and I wouldn't let go and just trust that maybe something else could happen, And that's sort of like, I think training on a daily basis is a metaphor for that. It's just sort of like, you have your goals, you want to train for your goals, but you have to be able to let go and be free with your training and feel good about it, because then you just never know. I mean, then you have to surrender to something higher, something bigger. Because the minute you start pinching your body, and like we were talking about this a little bit on, I think, the last podcast, is sort of you get into this mode where you're like restraining yourself all the time. And how, the way to growth is just to be free and surrender to, like, I mean, think about it. How many times have you gone out on a training run and felt terrible going into it, but then all of a sudden you just sort of let go, and it was like the best run you had, or a ride or whatever. That kind of stuff happens all the time. So why not try to build that muscle? You don't know. You don't want to go in going, I feel like shit, I'm going to have a terrible race, or whatever it is.
Well, and it's so much of it is like what people convince you. It's like, not people, not everyone. What a lot of like individuals, like, I know I go back to this all the time, but that's the part that just absolutely irritates me to all end. It's not even that you have a lot of coaches that just give piss poor advice on how to teach people how to swim. It's that even coaches, and like, not mainstream triathlon media, but like the mainstream belief is it's literally impossible to improve your stroke, and you shouldn't concentrate on it at all because you're not going to see any improvement if you do. And it's like, this is called triathlon. If you want to aqua jog and then go do a duathlon, go for it. But it's a 3-part sport, and so if you just don't want to, like, so I was telling you about this yesterday when we had coffee. Is there's the Ironman Louisville 2017 group, and this guy posts like these random ass questions every single day, and one of them was, what was the worst training advice that you ever received? And one of them was, you should focus on your swim and swim more, and the other one was something like, you should swim more to, drop down from a 2:17 to 2 minutes. And then it was like coaches that were agreeing with them. And I'm like, what? I don't get it. I don't get it. What's wrong with you people that thinks that you just like, you can't get better at, first of all, anything? There is a way, and there's always a way to get better. And it's like people, whether you don't have the answer now, which is fine, but don't tell people to not worry about something, or focus on something that has to do with getting better, because it's part of the sport. It's like, oh, well, don't worry about the nutrition. It just will be what it will be. It's like, choose to get better. Like it pisses me off.
Yeah, it does. Well, I mean, the swim part is a big deal, and I hear that. I've heard that since I started training for this. It's like, well, it's an hour and 20. It's only going to be like 20 minutes different. What's the sense in saving 20 minutes? But how about saving energy? How about feeling good about getting in the water? How about coming out strong? How about being warmed up and feeling good to tackle that bike? It gets a little hairy, man, when people start talking about the swim. And, we've gone over this a zillion times, but it is amazing to me how someone like me can go from zero swimming to being, struggling mightily kind of at Ironman Wisconsin. I mean, we trained hard for it, but it was still my first year of swimming, and I think I get at about a 120 in a really rough, choppy washing machine up in Ironman Wisconsin. I felt pretty good about that. And the next year, I just kept at it, kept thinking about the principles and working on stuff we had talked about, and went to Louisville and did a 106, and casually and got out of the water feeling unbelievable, you know? So, I mean, those are big things. And I think, again, it goes back to weaknesses, right? It's like nobody wants to work on their weaknesses, you know? It's just, it's hard. And it's easy to kind of get out there and start running.
But that's why it's the most fulfilling.
I know. I understand. I'm not arguing with you there.
Ish.
But that's the thing, right? Is like a lot of times the whole process of learning, why it's so hard is because you don't understand. You can't figure it out, you know? But when you do figure it out, what a difference, man. And you've been seeing it left and right with these people that have gone through the coach's eye swim analysis, and they're starting to figure it out. And then what happens if all of a sudden your swim becomes your favorite event?
Yeah.
And then, you know, it's like with me, cycling, I that's my strength. And I've, you know, kind of shown that I can get by with undertrained or whatever. And, you know, that's no different than some great runners. They can just get out there and do it without a whole lot of running training, just because it's something about the flow. It's something about the way they look at running and understand it innately. And that's what we want to do with swimming, is get to that point. Because I can sit there and watch people swim like good swimmers. Like yesterday I was watching this guy. I'm like, man, that guy is just cooking. He doesn't look like anything different really is going on, or doesn't look like the smoothest thing ever. But for some reason, there's something in his skeletal nature, his DNA, that just like glides through the water. He's figured it out, you know. And you're seeing that's what's so cool about watching what you're doing with some of the athletes and helping them get through a sticking point and figuring that part out. Because once you take that, you know, stress out of the game, man, it's different.
Well, yeah, that's it. It's like, yes, do I get super pumped when these athletes come back after their first swim and drop like 8 to 10 seconds off their 100? Absolutely. But that's not even the most fulfilling part. It's when they say, like, I always thought I was going to be this. Mm-hmm. Or I never thought I could get better. Mm-hmm. Or I always thought that I would, like, that's what it's about. It's about empowering people and giving them the information, giving them the opportunity to find out how it needs to be to better themselves, because you know what? It's not going to stop at swimming. So if you're a triathlete, and can you imagine having this mentality where I never feel like I'm going to get better at swimming, I'm always going to be stuck, I'm always going to be slow, so I'll probably never be that fast because I can only do 2 of the sports pretty good and 1 of the sports I'm terrible at. Can you honestly tell me that once regardless of if it's swim, bike, or run, you know, maybe you're a crappy runner. Can you imagine having a breakthrough in one of those 3 and finally thinking, oh, wow, I can finally put it together. I'm not a slow swimmer. I'm not a crappy biker. I'm not a poor runner. You know what I can do? Like, I can actually improve. Mm-hmm. There actually is a way. I just haven't found it. I haven't figured it out. I haven't been taught the right way. There is always a way. So thinking yourself into being slow, thinking yourself and accepting the fact that you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that, or I can just do the cutoff, you know, it's what they say all the time in the program. It's like, it's just that stinking thinking, you know, and we get ourselves in that mode, and that always happens. It does. It happens with swim all the time. And it's just, but yeah, that's the most rewarding part of doing it, is that like, and that's why it's the most frustrating, because like, there is a way. Like, I promise you, and it doesn't have to be mine, but there is a way, and it can like totally unlock your ability and confidence and approach to what you can become in the sport.
Yeah. And that's why not you? You know, why not you? I mean, everybody is capable of a lot more in life, I think, in general. And it's like, you know, I'm not an expert cyclist by any means, but it comes pretty naturally to me because I did a lot of mountain biking early back in my 20s. And and when I was a kid, actually. So I was a pretty decent bike handler all the way. But, like, I hear it all the time. Like, I can't, you know, how do you get better at cycling? It's one of these mysteries, too, in a way, because it's sort of like you're just on the bike and how much does form play into it or whatever. But, you know, I hear a lot of times people say, you know, I'm just so afraid on the bike, and especially like downhills, you know. And, you know, fast downhills can really scare people, and I get that. So it's like you don't get better on the bike just going out and riding for 5 hours at a really slow clip. You know, like what I always recommend is like, okay, you're afraid of downhills, you're uncomfortable with handling, you know, work on those sorts of things. But also try this. Pound your hills, you know, really work hard on going up your hills, because you got to figure out how to get a good cadence, a good strong cadence, then all of a sudden that stuff starts coming together. You know what I mean? It's work on things that you're not comfortable with, and you can't. It's very hard to like get used to going down hills. Like I got used to that. Because I was going down some of these wicked mountain bike terrains, and you just have to let it go, man. You can't.
Yep.
The hardest part about getting over your fear on a cycling downhill is just being able to relax. Because the minute you start getting tense, man, that's when your bike starts feeling like it's getting blown all over the place, and you want to overreact, and that's the last thing you can do. It's sort of like we were talking about with somebody the other day when they're getting tense in aero, or their back hurts and all that. It's about relaxing, man, and that to me is why cycling and swimming are so much alike in a way. Is swimming is so much about being relaxed too. I mean, think about how every time you start getting nervous in the water, that's when you tense up, and that's when swimming gets the hardest. How do you relax in the water? How do you relax on the bike and on the run? I mean, the minute you start getting like I'm going too fast, or I'm like I gotta pick it up, you just start getting tense, and that's when you get into really bad zones. Really, that screws you up. So but you can get better, man. You just got to focus on little things, incremental growth.
Incremental growth, man.
Yeah.
Incremental growth.
Don't think yourself into being slow.
Seriously.
Yeah, I like that line. You got another one there.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. So we got through like one question.
Oh, man.
That's all right, though, man. I think...
tackle another one next time.
Yeah, we'll tackle...
Hey, we're not going anywhere, so we got plenty of podcasts to cover all these questions, so it's all good.
Yeah. We really do, and there's a lot more good stuff coming on. Hopefully you're following our journey, 100 Days to Louisville. Today is, when you hear this, it'll be day 27, which means we've got 74 days left. And
tons of time.
Tons of time. That's why I'm really concentrating on this. Like, okay, don't go too hard, man. Yesterday I went out, because you went out and you were going to spin, and then you felt great and you did a test. And I was like, when you said that to me, I was like, damn it. So I went out in my mind, and I'm like, I'm going to spin, and then I'm going to see how it goes. And I went out and I said, I'm going to pound it. And I pounded like half of a lap out there at the lab. And I went, you know what? I don't have it. So I just backed off and decided to set up tomorrow, which is our long run ride at the Trace.
Right. Yep.
And it's not worth it. I know just from experience that I could finish an Ironman this weekend, and maybe at close to what I hope to do, or have done in the past. But I'm setting this up because I want to feel good, and there's no sense in pushing it too far early, and there's no sense in pushing it too far ever, really. I mean,
yeah, seriously.
I just a lot of people get caught up in the miles, man, and that was one other question I think we can quickly address. Is it miles or time?
It's time, baby.
Yeah, it's
can't
just,
rush it.
Yeah, you can't rush it. It's like, okay, yeah. What if you want to? Like, that's what I did on my run. That's where I screwed up the other day. I was like, I'm going to go out for a quote unquote long run and do maybe a 120 because I hadn't been going much further than that. And I was like, you know what? I'm out here. And then I got out into no man's land because it was the turnaround thing. And I ended up doing 145. And that was just like 20 minutes too far, man. I mean, 20 minutes, it doesn't seem like that much, but, that's a lot of time running. There's times when I feel like that's all I should run is 20 minutes,
Yeah.
Especially after a long, hard bike.
Hey, easy 20, easy 30 mirror, they add up. Because if you do those 3 times a week, you get an extra 4 hours a month.
Yeah. Isn't that something?
Yeah, over the course of 10 months, that's 40 hours of extra running. That didn't seem like much. Oh, but it's much.
Yeah, I mean, don't... that's what I try to remember, too, is don't underestimate shorter workouts, man.
Yeah.
I mean...
My athletes don't understand that because I do little short runs all the time. A lot of it's about just keep and feel. Keeping a little bit of run here and there. And again, you've got, 3 20-minute runs of the week. There's an hour. That's 4 hours extra for the month, which is a lot. That's a lot of run hours.
Yeah.
It's about the big picture, man. It's about the big picture.
It's accumulated fatigue, which is our last podcast, or 2 podcasts ago.
That is. What is what's the podcast? Podcast 78 or 80?
What, this one?
Yeah.
Oh, it's at least 80. I think it's 81. I don't remember
Really?
either. Yeah. Why? Does it matter?
No, I was just gonna. I got so fired up about swimming and stuff today that I was gonna throw out a little fun, a little discount for anybody doing the swim analysis.
Oh.
If you're doing Ironman Louisville or any Ironman for the remainder of the year, you can say what's a good coupon discount code for they can use.
C26 swim.
There you go. Use the coupon code C26swim. Email me at c26coach@gmail.com. I'll give you 25% off any choice of the Coach's Eye training program offerings and analysis between today and so today is August 2nd, so you won't hear it. So we'll say between August 3rd and August 10th.
Okay.
C26 swim is your coupon code. Come get faster, and let's change this stupid approach to swimming and show that it can be done.
Let's show it can be done. 25% off this. You know, who knows how much time and energy that may save you in your race coming up.
Yep.
This is podcast 81, by the way.
Perfect.
So on podcast 81. All right, I can't wait to see. Hopefully our video worked, and I'll be getting my own swim analysis here soon because I'm looking forward to that. I know that there's nothing better than being able to drill down and get a couple little key points of information about your swim. Just start working on it while you still got a little time left. Realistically,
you got plenty of time.
Plenty of time for most of these fall races to get your swim kind of in order, and get it done.
Yep, to getting it done, man.
Get in that Crushing Iron group. Search Crushing Iron group on Facebook. It's our private group, and there's a lot of really good stuff in there. Man, a lot of good people, a lot of good energy, a lot of positive, realistic, just good discussion.
Yep, it is, man.
Anything else? What else you got cooking today? You got a big workout ahead?
Big swim. I'm about to finish up. I'll tidy up a few things around the office here, and then I'm gonna go pick up Hayden. He's got his 12-month doctor appointment at 1:30, and then after that, I'm gonna go get my swim in.
Oh, I was gonna say you got a big swim before that, man. That's cooking.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it afterwards.
Okay, man. I guess by the time this is out, we'll be on our way out to the trace for
That's it, man.
Another ball buster.
That's it.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it and all the feedback. C26coach@gmail.com is for the swimmers analysis and any other coaching questions or any other philosophical life questions. Maybe I better not go that far yet.
Yeah, let's not go that far yet.
Okay. But you can send those to crushingiron@gmail.com, and I'll get back to you. If you have any questions about anything, that's always a place to start. All right, buddy. I guess that'll wrap it up. See you, man. Bye-bye.